Imagine a moment when the sky above Earth is no longer empty, when 47 civilizations arrive at our doorstep, not with weapons, but with questions. Questions about kindness, about why humans help without expecting anything in return. What begins as fear soon turns into the greatest cultural exchange in galactic history, where humanity's simplest acts may change the fate of the stars forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's jump into the story. The first light of morning poured across the skyline of New Harbor, painting its towers with a warm golden glow. In the streets below, people moved quickly, clutching their coats against the crisp October air. Ryu Min-jae walked among them with a steaming paper cup in his hand. The coffee smelled rich, but he hardly tasted it. His mind was already on the 42nd floor of the Global Contact Institute, where the day's work waited. The institute's glass walls stretched high into the air, reflecting the rising sun. Giant screens on the front of the building displayed images from across the solar system. The red plains of Mars, the shining rings of Saturn, and the endless dark beyond Neptune. Min-jae had been a xenobiologist for 12 years, but most of that time he had studied Earth's own creatures. The real dream, the search for life beyond their world, had always felt far away. 8 years ago, everything had changed when the Dragonkin first appeared. Inside the elevator, the ride up was smooth and quiet. When the doors slid open at his floor, the calm ended instantly. Alarms chimed in soft but urgent tones. Technicians hurried across the room, screens glowing with fast-changing numbers and shapes. The energy of the place carried an edge of fear and anticipation. Park Hana, his colleague and closest analyst, rushed to meet him. Her eyes were wide. "Min-jae, you need to see this," she said, pulling him toward the main display wall. At first, all he saw was the deep black of space. Then his eyes adjusted, and the truth took shape. Dark, massive figures moved slowly across the field of stars. Their outlines stirred memory. Vast, living ships that looked grown rather than built. Dragon ships. His chest tightened. "Dragon vessels," he whispered. Hana pointed closer to the screen. Surrounding the familiar forms were smaller ships, hundreds of them, each with a different design. Some shone like lanterns, some curved like flowing water. Others pulsed with strange, unfamiliar light. Dr. Yoon So-jin, the department head, joined them. Her silver hair was pulled back neatly, but her face showed the weight of long hours. "We confirmed 20 minutes ago," she said. "It is the Dragonkin, but this time they have not come alone." Min-jae's thoughts pulled him back to memories of 8 years earlier, when the dragons had appeared without warning in Earth skies. The world's armies had prepared for war. Instead, the dragons asked for help. They were refugees, their homeworld destroyed. They had come seeking shelter, repair, and rest. In return, humanity had offered food, medicine, and a place to heal. Many had doubted them, but in time, trust grew. After 6 months, the dragons departed with a promise. They would return. "Incoming transmission," the technician called. The room froze. The screen flickered. Static breaking apart, before clearing to reveal a familiar presence. Elder Naria's face appeared. Her scales shimmered silver blue beneath soft ship lighting. Her eyes carried the same depth that people remembered from before, ancient, calm, and full of quiet power. "Greetings, people of Earth," she began, her voice clear and musical. She spoke first in Korean, then shifted to English, then to Spanish, her words flowing with practiced grace. "We have returned, as we promised. Your kindness carried us farther than our engines ever could." Min-jae stood still, his heartbeat heavy. Elder Naria's words carried warmth, but her tone shifted as she continued. "We are not alone this time. Many have heard of your world and did not believe our story. They come with us now. They do not seek conquest or trade. They come as students to learn what we learned from you." Dr. Yoon stepped closer to the communication panel. "Elder Naria, this is Dr. Yoon So-jin. You and your companions are welcome. May we know who travels beside you?" Naria's expression softened. 47 civilizations travel in this fleet, some older than your mountains, some young and full of questions. They wish to see a rare thing, kindness without expectation. A quiet silence settled over the room. Every person understood the weight of what had just been said. 8 years ago, humanity had chosen compassion over fear, and now that choice had reached across the galaxy. Elder Naria spoke again. "We ask for permission to place a station in the far reaches of your system. From there, these many species hope to visit your world. This will be the largest meeting of civilizations in this region of space. Earth will be at the center." The screen faded to black. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with awe. Outside, people in the streets were already looking at their devices, seeing the news spread in real time. Dr. Yoon turned to her team. Her voice was calm but carried urgency. "Prepare Harmony Ring. Call Ambassador Cho Jin-hyuk. Alert the council. We must tell the world what is coming." Min-jae stared at the blank screen, still seeing Naria's eyes in his mind. The dragons had kept their promise, but they had also carried humanity's story across the stars. He thought of those early days when Earth had feared the worst and had chosen kindness anyway. Now the galaxy was arriving at their doorstep, not because of Earth's technology or weapon, but because of simple acts of welcome. The suspense was overwhelming, but beneath it, something else stirred. A fragile hope that what had begun with one choice might now grow into something far greater. As the clock ticked forward on the wall, Ryu Min-jae understood that the world was stepping into a new chapter. Dawn over New Harbor was no longer just the start of another day. It was the beginning of humanity's place at the heart of galactic history. The vast structure known as Harmony Ring floated above Earth like a shining crown. It was a station built with human determination and dragon knowledge, a symbol of what could be created when trust replaced fear. Its curved windows gave a full view of the stars, and in that view, a fleet was approaching. Ships of many shapes glided forward, each different from the other, carrying the weight of civilizations across the galaxy. Ambassador Cho Jin-hyuk stood at the main observation deck, his hands folded behind his back. He was calm, a man trained to speak in many languages and to listen even more. Yet, as the first Dragon bioship prepared to dock, even he felt his heart tighten. This was not only the return of old allies. This was the beginning of something entirely new. The docking process unfolded like a slow dance. The bioship shimmered with light, its surface alive, breathing as though it were a creature itself. It connected to the station with perfect silence, and through the tunnel, shadows moved, waiting to step into human space once again. Around the hall, anticipation grew. Dr. Kang Soo-yeon, a cultural researcher, adjusted her notes with shaking hands. She had spent years preparing to understand alien traditions. Oh Min-woo, a teacher chosen for his gift of patience, rehearsed simple words about friendship and play. Song Yu-bin, a young musician, held a guitar gently, unsure if sound could bridge the distance between species, but willing to try. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Elder Naria entered first. Her long neck lowered in a gesture of respect, her scales flowing with color that shifted like water in sunlight. Behind her came two younger dragons, their blue and green bodies gleaming. But it was what followed that made the hall fall silent. A being of pure light drifted into the room. Its body held no solid shape, only flowing waves of gold and blue. The air itself seemed to carry its presence. "The Luminel," Elder Naria said, softly. "They will speak in rhythm and pulse." A voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We have come to see if kindness can exist without trade." Next came a figure of crystal. Every step rang like a bell, each tone soft but strong. "The resonance," Naria explained. "Builders who shape living stone." The resonant bowed. "We build towers that last forever, yet we have never built friendship. We come to learn." Then entered the Ironborn. Their bodies were dark and heavy. Stop, heated from within, moving like fire given shape. Their leader's voice was deep and unbending. "We seek to know what strength lies in your gentleness. We have heard the dragons call it powerful." After them walked the verdants, tall beings covered in leaves and vines. The scent of fresh rain followed them. One spoke in a calm tone. "We tend our own worlds. Now we wish to understand how you tend strangers." Last to arrive were the chorus mist, drifting clouds of color that glowed softly. Their voices rose together, blending like harmony. "We share thought among ourselves. We have never needed art or music to connect, but we are told your music carries memory and feeling across time. We have come to learn why." Ambassador Cho stepped forward. He welcomed each delegation in Korean, English, Spanish, and Arabic, offering simple greetings. His words were not grand, but the simplicity mattered. The visitors had traveled light years to hear honesty, not speeches. From that moment, the hall shifted into something greater than ceremony. Conversations began. Oh Min-woo gathered a small group of Ironborn warriors. He spoke about a human word that described a bond built slowly over shared time. He told stories of neighbors becoming friends and strangers becoming family. The Ironborn listened in silence, their heated eyes fixed on him, struggling to understand how bonds could form without command or duty. In another chamber, Song Yu-bin played his guitar. The gentle melody filled the room, and the chorus mist rippled in color. "This sound carries no instruction," they said. "Yet it moves us. Why? Because music is not for use, Yubin replied. It is for feeling. It reminds us we are not alone, even across years and distance. They asked him to play again, and he did, his notes weaving into their shifting glow. Dr. Kang Suyon met with the Keepers of Traces. She showed them recordings of human children learning by playing games, failing, trying again, and helping each other. Inefficient, one keeper observed. Yes, Kang agreed, but this way makes us flexible. It also teaches us to care for one another. The keeper tilted its crystalline head. We preserve all memory, yet we create little. Perhaps we kept the seed, but forgot the soil. Throughout the station, new voices met and learned. Elder Narya moved quietly among them, guiding, translating, and smoothing moments of tension. Cho watched her closely. There was something different in her now, a steadiness that came not from survival, but from trust. As the day closed, the observation deck filled again. Representatives of dozens of worlds gazed down at Earth, glowing blue beneath them. The suspense that had begun as fear transformed into anticipation. What would they learn from humans? What would humans learn from them? Cho Jinyuk turned to Dr. Kang and said, "Today we opened the door. Tomorrow we begin to walk through it." Elder Narya lowered her head in agreement. "Many know how to live alone," she said. "Fewer remember how to grow together. Today, you reminded them it is possible." Harmony Ring hummed softly, its lights steady, as if the station itself understood it was now more than steel and glass. It was the place where strangers became students, and students might one day become friends. The meeting room on Harmony Ring was heavy with tension. Two delegations stood apart, their voices sharp even before the discussion began. On one side, the Ironborn radiated heat from their dark, metallic bodies, their leader, Cindermark, insisting that their warriors required more energy than anyone else. Across the table, the resonance, crystalline and steady, chimed with tones of disagreement. They argued that their larger numbers and longer stay demanded priority. Both sides wanted the same high-energy particles. The station could not supply both at full strength. Kim Yong-bae, a human mediator known for his calm manner, entered the room. He had solved trade disputes on Earth, but this conflict reached across species. Still, he believed the same rule applied. When people fight over limited resources, the problem is often not the resource, but the way it is framed. He greeted both sides with respect. Then, he asked a simple question. "What matters most to you?" Cindermark answered first. His voice like rolling thunder. "Our bodies burn hotter than yours. Without full energy, we weaken." Vein of Echoes, the resonant coordinator, responded in tones that rang like bells. "Our systems are delicate. Without full energy, harmony breaks. Our people suffer." Yongbei nodded. "Both of you speak about survival. That is natural. But let me ask something else. Why are you here on Harmony Ring?" There was a pause. Finally, Cindermark spoke. "To learn. To understand new ways." Vein of Echo. More softly. Yongbei activated a holographic display of the station's power grid. "Our engineers designed these systems for human use. The limits you see are safety barriers made for our kind. What if the limit is not fixed? What if your strengths together can expand what we have? The room grew quiet. For the first time, the two delegations looked at each other, instead of only at him. Cindermark frowned. We can carry more heat. Our bodies are made for it. Vein of Echoes tilted her crystal head. We can tune resonance to reduce waste. Together, it could increase flow. Yongbei stepped back. Then it is not a fight over scraps. It is a chance to create more than either could alone. As they spoke, other delegates from different species began to gather. A luminel pulsed gently, suggesting small adjustments to energy rhythm. A verdant offered biofilters that could recycle lost particles. Members of the chorus, Mist, proposed pressure waves to smooth the flow through Kond. Soon, the argument transformed into design. Sketches appeared in the hologram. Simulations ran. Charts shifted. The air that had carried anger now carried problem-solving. It was not perfect agreement, but it was shared work. After a trial, the station's lights dimmed briefly, then flared brighter. Readings climbed beyond old limits. Cheers did not erupt, but a deep breath moved through the room, the kind that follows fear and replaces it with relief. Cindermark looked at Vein of Echoes. You gain, we gain. Both stand stronger. Her tones rang like clear bells. Yes, the sum is larger than the parts. Elder Naria entered as the work concluded. Her scales shimmered with warm color. This is what I hope to see, she said. Many civilizations know how to compete. Few know how to combine. Kim Yongbei smiled, though his voice stayed humble. For us, it felt like the obvious path. Naria's eyes glowed softly. Obvious to you, extraordinary to most of the galaxy. Word spread quickly across Harmony Ring. What had begun as a conflict ended as a shared success. Delegates who had come expecting long lessons in diplomacy saw a demonstration instead. Cooperation was not just an idea. It was a tool that worked. That evening, in the common deck, representatives from different worlds gathered without invitation. They shared drinks, small foods, and stories. Song Yubin played quiet music. The chorus mist rippled in time with his melody, while the luminel added light that pulsed with the rhythm. Even the Ironborn, often silent, tapped out low beats against the floor. Ryu Minjae stood at the edge of the gathering, watching. He thought of how easily the meeting could have ended in resentment, with each side retreating into anger. Instead, they had chosen something new. The suspense of the day had begun with fear of shortage. Now, it ended with the feeling of possibility. Kim Yongbei joined Minjae at the railing. They learned today that problems do not always need winners and losers, he said. They learned what humans have practiced quietly for centuries, Minjae added. That sharing can build more than fighting. As the stars spread beyond the window, Harmony Ring seemed to hum louder, as though it too had grown stronger. The lesson was simple, but its impact stretched across every corner of the station. Cooperation, once seen as weakness, had proven itself as power, and for the first time, many of the visitors began to wonder what else humanity might teach that the galaxy had forgotten. The request arrived late in the evening, carrying a weight unlike the others. The undying quorum, beings who had never known aging or death, wanted to speak with a human who understood the end of life. Their curiosity was simple but piercing. Why do humans spend precious time caring for others when they know their lives will end? President Jiang Unmi considered the request carefully. Many experts on philosophy, science, and religion could have answered, but the quorum did not want theory. They wanted lived truth. So Jiang invited Han Daejun, a retired hospice worker from Seoul. Daejun was 73 years old, his back bent with age, his eyes warm with quiet patience. For 40 years, he had sat at the bedsides of people taking their last breaths. He had no grand title, but he carried the kind of wisdom that only time can carve. When Daejun entered the meeting chamber on Harmony Ring, 3 members of the undying quorum waited. Their tall bodies looked like shadows threaded with starlight. Their faces were beautiful but unreadable, as if expression had been worn away by endless centuries. First Voice, the leader among them, spoke. "Human Daejun, we observe that your kind cares for the weak and dying. Logic suggests you should preserve your strength for survival. Why choose kindness when there is no return?" Daejun folded his hands in his lap and smiled gently. "I cannot speak for all humans, but I can tell you stories of the people I met." His voice was calm, steady, the kind suited for late-night listening. There was a woman named Mrs. Song. She was very sick, with only weeks to live. Her hands ached, yet she spent her final days knitting sweaters for children she would never meet. When I asked why, she said some children would be cold in winter, and her sweaters would keep them warm. She knew she would not live to see it, but that was enough for her. Keeper of Spans tilted its head, shadows shifting. "This is not logical. She gained nothing." "True," Daejun said softly. "But she left warmth behind. She gave a gift that outlived her body. Sometimes that is enough." Another member of the quorum, Watcher of Years, leaned forward. "But does this not waste her last moments?" "No," Daejun replied. "It gave her purpose. When she saw each finished sweater, she smiled. She felt her life still mattered, even at the end." The room fell into silence. The quorum, who had lived for millennia without endings, had no answer for this kind of meeting. President Jiang spoke quietly. "Our species fears death, but we also learn from it. Endings remind us to use our time well. They remind us to hold each other close." Daejun continued, "Kindness is not a trade. It is a thread. When you tie enough threads, they become a bridge. Maybe the person tying it never walks across, but someone else does. That is reason enough." First Voice turned, the starlight in its form flickering. "We have avoided endings for longer than your species has existed. Yet in avoiding them, perhaps we lost tenderness." Elder Naria entered then, her scales glowing with soft silver. "This is the lesson I hoped you would see," she said. "Safety without growth becomes a prison, but vulnerability, shared openly, creates strength." President Jiang asked, "But, so what should we build instead of higher walls?" Daejun answered before anyone else, "A school. Not for facts or weapons, but for kindness. a place where all can practice caring for others, where the lesson is not about gain, but about giving. The idea spread quickly. Harmony Ring became more than a station. It became a living school. Teachers came not only from governments and science, but from farms, homes, and small villages. Children's games were taught to warriors who had never played. Musicians shared songs with beings who had never needed music. Elders told stories to immortals who had never known endings. Aliens, who once came as students, began to share their own wisdom. The resonance taught patience in building. The Ironborn showed endurance under heat. The chorus mist demonstrated how to listen for undertones in voices. Yet all of them returned to the same question. Why do humans care? And connection creates meaning. On the day the school was formally opened, the observation deck filled with hundreds of species. Cho Jin-hyuk stood before them and spoke without notes. We thought our strength was technology or defense. Now we see our strength is openness. We are strong because we keep caring, even when there is no reward. Elder Narya bowed her long neck. What feels ordinary to you is extraordinary to the galaxy. You remind us that kindness is not weakness. It is the start of growth. Daejun stood quietly at the back, watching. He was only one man, carrying a lifetime of quiet work. But in that moment, he saw his small stories ripple outward. The galaxy had come not for Earth's machines, but for its humanity. As the gathering ended, the delegates did not rush away. They lingered in doorways, sharing thoughts and questions. Outside the windows, the planet glowed blue, and Harmony Ring turned slowly in its orbit. It was not the end of the story, only the beginning of a larger one. Humanity had shown the galaxy the quiet reason they keep caring. It was not for power or reward. It was because caring fills the short span of life with meaning, and that meaning can echo across stars.